We have Diane. Oh, I love Diane. Always jams along. Diane, you bring a smile everywhere you go, and I really appreciate that. I really do. Let's see here. I didn't want to miss anybody. Oh, hey, Hillbilly Herb. Nice to see you. And we have Carl. Hey, Carl. And thank you for being a member. Definitely, that's awesome. Stargazer is back. Hey, nice to see you. We've got the Blazer, of course, Blazer does. Yeah, he's got some. He's pretty talented, let me tell you. Let's see. I know I saw a few more. I just didn't want to miss anybody. And if I do miss you, like I always say, oh, Andrew, I saw Andrew. Nice to see you, Andrew, and welcome. So glad that you could be here. And I love that you guys, the chat goes like this. I really do. It's so cool to see. But yeah, I think I got most of you. Travis Miller, nice to see you. And oh, sorry, Travis, I pronounced your name wrong. And two, if anybody's listening on X side, on Facebook, on Rumble, or what, the YouTube seems to have the best live chat. If you want to get on there, it's just go to youtube.com at SNX Radio. So, and then we got Valspop. You're great to see you. And let's see, Val. I think that's it. So, without further ado, let me bring on Dave. He's got his own YouTube channel. If you are interested, he does some talks that he's just got it going, I guess, a couple months ago. It's Dave Hunt Talks. But we're going to go ahead and bring Dave out, and then he can introduce himself to you, tell you a little bit more about himself and who he is. And hey, Dave, welcome.
Hi, Coley, you're right.
Yeah, I didn't take this because I was very good with technologies, just so you know. When it comes, I know I get caught up on the dumbest, stupidest stuff sometimes. But yeah, that's welcome. For people who don't know you, why don't you tell them who you are and what you do?
Yep, my name's Dave Hunt. I live in the UK. I was born in London, but I now live in Wales. I run a YouTube channel called David Hunt Talks, and it's basically just chronologuing like all my experiences with what I'll refer to as non-human intelligences, and weaving a bit of spiritual wisdom along the way to sort of try and support people that are going through spiritual awakenings and stuff. So yeah, I'm a lifelong experiencer, and but it doesn't happen so much these days, to be fair. But that's part of the story, you know.
That's a truth for a lot of people. It's like you go in that heavy part, and then all of a sudden it kind of lifts. I think that's when your mission kind of begins. What's your take on all that? Because it is too. And when it stops, it's kind of like you're missing a part of I don't know. That's the way it felt for me anyway.
Yeah, I wonder like what the different reasons are for why it stopped. But I'll be honest with you, I do think that to a large extent the reason why it stopped, at least it stopped overtly, was because I woke up to what was going on and took my sovereignty back in the situation. And then I seem to have some sort of power to put a stop to it. So yeah, which is a rabbit hole we can go down, do you know what I mean, at some point. So.
Yeah, see, when you first unpack your story, I know there's so much to it. It can be literally overwhelming, but I mean, phenomenal. So you're a childhood experiencer that brings along very unique like situations and circumstances. Now, what you said about the phenomenon and like what was what, see, I was always paranormal, but I wonder too, like how much of this, because they go hand in hand, one's necessary for the other one and vice versa. So it's, at first I was like, man, I was not a child, but I just think it was in a different way.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do think that, to be fair, it's all one. It's just different facets of the same phenomenon. Yeah, when I was going through all the contact experiences, I was also having all the other kind of poltergeist type activities happening in my house, and all the other strange phenomena like sleep paralysis as well, and just all these things like things disappearing and then reappearing, and like the TV controller as well. Like it was just ridiculous, but it was just like I was hoovering the floor and we'd lost all the TV. We had 3 TV controllers at the time. And I was hoovering the floor, and then I turned around and I turned back round, and they were lined up on the floor in front of the TV. where I just hoovered, you know, stuff like that, where you would go, no, that absolutely, this is like being haunted, you know. It was the same as that at the same time. So at the time, I tried to, because, well, I tell you what, Coley, should we go back right to the beginning? Yeah.
Might as well start there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a way of taking you. Don't let me take you off on the side roads, because I
Yeah.
can, believe me, I
It's
can
just
do that
difficult.
in a
It's just
second.
difficult to get everything into like context, you know.
Sure.
So yeah. So when I was like, my earliest memories of like being 4 or 5, I was basically aware that I was being taken by what people refer to as grey aliens. Sometimes that they were coming into my room, but they were coming in with soldiers as well. And even at that age, I was like quite into like toy soldiers and all that kind of thing. And I knew that they were American soldiers, and they were walking straight out of the walls with these greys as well. So as a child, I sort of believed that we just lived in a control system, and that there was like a continuous monitoring going on. I thought that like everybody was going through it, but like in the playground and stuff, if I'd bring it up with my mates, they'd look at me like I was mad, and I just basically shut up about it. Do you know what I mean? And then like I lived the first sort of 15 years of my life just in like the sort of very sort of like normal, stereotypical abductee life, you know, where I was petrified in the nights when these guys would come. They were taking my sister as well, and it was just I never gave permission for it. I never got an open dialogue with them. It was just being like them coming into the room and me not really remembering like what happened afterwards, you know, but having marks on my body, all the stereotypical classic stuff, you know, that abductees go through. Then when I was like 15, I had like an existential experience, which was like similar to like what people are describing now from taking DMT and having like, and other people having near-death experiences, but I wasn't on any substances at the time. And I basically got taken out of my body and then taken out of what we'd call reality. And I know, like you said when we were talking earlier, like it's a place that people refer to as like the void. And I was in this place, and I had no context, you know, for anything like we discussed. You know, there was no sense of distance or anything. But a narrator came into my awareness and said, "Do you want to see reality for what it actually is?" And I went through this experience of seeing a white ball manifest in front of me. And when I closed in on it, it was like electromagnetic information fields going backwards and forwards. And the narrator sort of was saying that basically reality wasn't what we think it was. A little bit more like the way people understand like the Matrix. You know, it was like it was saying that consciousness was decoding those information fields into a 3D reality. So I came back from that experience. I do go into a lot more detail in some videos on my channel and stuff, but I just try and keep it quite straightforward for now. But when I came back from that experience, I was like changed. My sense of like awareness had changed. There was nothing I could do about it. It was like there was the persona that you see, like called Dave Hunt and stuff, you know. But then there was like this separation. There was like a silent kind of witness. I've heard people describe that as, you know, just like observing, like a gap had opened up, if you like. And I sort of like mistakenly thought, to be honest with you, that was spiritual enlightenment. I thought that I had become enlightened through that experience and stuff. But what I was right for the picking. I believe that like these entities came and they pulled off like quite a decent deception on me. And that's what I sort of like try to warn people now about, is that like these guys had UFOs, they had white lights in the sky, they appeared in my bedroom, these guys, do you know what I mean? Like, and they, for all intents and purposes, are exactly the same as people are describing when they're describing like ET interactions, you know. But I don't believe these guys were that. I think they were doing it in a deceptive way. You know, you've heard other people, there's other people saying, isn't there? Like, but what happened was they sort of gaslighted me, and So I was like about, at this time, I was about 24. And me and my wife and my daughter, she was only 3 months old at the time. And we got abducted like during the middle of the day, coming back from the hospital. I just had a x-ray. And we all got taken on board the craft. And there was 3 people stood opposite me. And they looked like human beings, but like really beautiful human beings, you know, like exactly the way that people describe like Nordics. And they had like the blue, like tight fitting outfits on, you know, great physiques, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And there was 2 blokes and there was a woman. And the bloke in the middle was talking to me, and he was saying to me that I needed to get involved in a program. He said that me and him had an overlap of egos, right? He said that what he was trying to tell me was that he was me. He said, "Oh, I am you. I'm you from another time." He said, "That's why we've got this great communication. That's why we're going to do this program together, where we're going to wake people up, you know, like to the reality of like extraterrestrials and stuff." You know, he said that there was a big change coming and all this stuff, and he did. Right, he did look like me. When I say that, I mean, like I say, he was better looking, but he was like, there was a resemblance. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, you know, I've got a cold at the moment as well. I'm drying.
Oh yeah, no, that's not even a problem at all. Do you think you were a part of a government program? Because this sounds a lot like, you know, like how they would
Yeah, so
gifted and talented.
I believe that like at some point, this phenomena blends into government. So I think that like the phenomena is real, and it's non-human in origin, but I think that it does also work with like certain levels of like our worldwide military industrial complex, or whatever you want to call it. You know, like it's working with them at some level. Because I knew that like military personnel had been on the abductions when I was children, so I knew that, you know.
And they were American. That's interesting
Yeah,
too.
I knew they were American. It's just like when the soldiers came out of the wall, like they had like more of the drop helmet at the time. Yeah, it's a long time ago when I was a kid, you know what I mean? But I knew the difference. Like the British helmet was like kind of just round, like a base. You know? The American one had a slight more dropped, like around the ears, and they had those types of helmets. So I suppose what I should say is I don't know for a fact they were American, but they were wearing the American style military hats, right? So I'm sure that this phenomena goes across the board. You know what I mean? It's only in our minds that we think, oh, it's the Americans or it's the Canadians or it's this, but it's probably there's some level to the world where those lines don't mean anything. Do you know what I mean? So,
Oh, I'm sure, but it does seem like, and even coming from here and knowing about the block budget projects, it seems like America, they're the first ones to respond on a lot
yeah,
of this.
that does seem to be the case. Do you know what I mean? So for whatever reason, like maybe it's like say the resources or the land mass and stuff, but this phenomenon is using like what we call superpowers or whatever, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Yeah.
to got the most resources, so they're working through these big groups, you know, but they're all on the same side basically. I'm not saying that,
Oh
you
no,
know,
yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I agree. I said
but
there's us and then there's that 3%, and we're not the
yeah,
same. We are
that's
not
it.
the
And of course, then like so that 3%. I mean, like, you know, there's plenty of stuff flying about them, about who they might actually be or what they might actually be. But again, even that, the elites, I think it blends into this astral realm of this conspiracy, if you like, because they're working for someone else, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? If they're not in it for the money because they print the money, and they're not in it for the power because they've got the power, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like they must be doing it for another reason. And it's probably because they're subordinate to their masters. Do you know what I mean? They're probably more scared of them than they are of us at the moment. So
that. You know, a part of me, I don't know, I can't like believe I'm saying this, but a part of me, I hope so. Because so much of this, like, I feel like, you know, and it's like the people that should not hold these answers are the ones that do. I can't stand the fact that somebody else has the truth before my life, my way it was impacted, and they're able to let it. That really eats away at me.
you know what, Coley? All I would say to counter that, to be honest with you, is that actually it's the very opposite of the way I see it. Because this control system that these guys are all a part of, it's effectively false. And the only thing that's real in it is you and me. So like these guys aren't holding on to the truth. They might be hiding facts from us, but it's you and me that are the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I like the way you put that. Yeah.
You can think they've got the truth. They might, but we are the truth. It's a bit of a difference. I'll take being it rather than knowing about it.
That's a good point. No, that's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because that is a very good point. Because you do sometimes you get so frustrated and in this, and I'm like, but you're right. Maybe their understanding, we can't assume everybody thinks the way that we do, because I guarantee that's probably not the case here. You know, with the way that people, we're not probably thinking alike at all. You know, outside of this channel, but
they're going to be like sort of mistaking like knowledge for wisdom. You know what I mean? Like they think that because they know how something happens, or they know that they know who they're working for, so they think, oh, we know the bigger picture and stuff. That's fine. You can know all that stuff. Brilliant. Good for them, right? But if they don't know who they actually are, as in like actually know that they are just pure awareness, one with all of us, with the whole thing, then they're paupers as far as I'm concerned. Because we've got this potential to know ourselves as that. And I think it's a lot harder for them than it is for us to do that. And some of them probably aren't even real. It's in they don't even have souls. They're just literally part of the control system, and they don't even have a real. They literally their whole existence depends on the system maintaining itself. Because when it doesn't, they're gone as well. They're not even as real as we are. You know.
That really resonates with me, because I said, I know there's creators. I know that, you know, and obviously the law of attraction doesn't happen right away, but there's people here, and they're definitely not. I said they're probably like the residual energy you would see, like the people that are spirits and they come back and they do the same thing. They don't care if they see you, hear you. I don't even know if they do. They're just here for their own little play by play, but it really is. It does. That is another like part of it where I'm like, man, how many of them are there compared to us, or why are they mixed in? Is this really like the Truman Show? Are we really living this here, or is there any free will whatsoever? All that, I don't feel like we can get off of here necessarily.
So the way I understand it is that there isn't free will in the way people think there is. You know, if you're following the program, there is a program laid out for everyone's life. Yeah. And the only thing that can override it is consciousness. So if you don't like disidentify with the illusory self and become identified with the consciousness behind the game, then there's no free will for you. You will just do what your DNA programming, the matrix programming, or whatever you want to call it. You will just follow that program. You know what I mean? You'll just do what you're programmed to do. But if consciousness gets involved, then that goes awry. And of course, that is I'm generalizing. It's a complicated system. Everyone's got consciousness, and everyone applies it sometimes at different points in their life. You know, like it can happen to anybody. But of course, like people like you and me, and people watching this, you know, we're people that are more and more so identifying with being something else other than just a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like spending more time there. And of course, as we're doing that, our lives get like messed up because you're not following the program.
Yes. Oh, do I ever?
But you're swapping it for something better. So like it's a necessity, let's say. Yeah, because this program needs to break up. You know, it doesn't need to be saved. It's not broken. Like awareness needs to sort of like reassert itself into a world that has like completely fallen asleep. And like you could look at it symbolically, it's literally just this world could only be created the way it is and separated through the consciousness going into it being a complete slumber. Right?
Yeah.
Dream. Like you've got to be asleep to dream, yeah? Like so like,
no, that's so true. I would say, you know, in order to believe that American dream, you have to be asleep. Like it's just kind of along the same lines of everything.
And in order for consciousness to do this, it has to be asleep. It's exactly the same. Right? So
that's interesting.
It's not like a judgment from awareness, like saying, all right, I've got to stop this. It's not threatened by what's happened. Do you know what I mean? Because it's awareness truth. So it's not threatened by an illusion. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it does just at some point, which is now, decide, oh yeah, that's over. Going to bring these guys back. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it maybe because, you know, for whatever reasons, or for no reason, because infinite awareness can do or not do. It's as simple as that. But like what it told me when I had that experience at 15, he said, look, he said, it's over. Okay. He said, like, that separated consciousness is coming back into the prime consciousness. He said, so, and it showed me like an image of like consciousness, like influxing itself into the asleep, if you like, consciousness. And there was nothing that could be done. He said, it's a done deal. He said, it can't be undone. There's no, within that reality, you'll think these guys are winning. So like, you'll think that they're all powerful and they're going to introduce the technology and everything else. And you'll think, oh my God, it's insurmountable. I can't do anything about it. They said, but what you're actually witnessing is them in their death throes. They're doing everything they can. They can't accept what is happening. So that's all, as far as I'm concerned, these astral entities that are controlling this game now, I mean, the technology has been around for eons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when like technology gets released all of a sudden, like over the last 200 years, you know, and they're increasingly so,
Oh yeah.
like it's them reacting to something, right? It's not them going, oh, go on then, you have some technology. No, they're reacting to something. They had to get us like locked down and get eyes on everybody and everything, right? They never had to have that before. Do you know what I mean? Like, but now they've got to. Now they've got to hit us with frequency weapons, chemtrails, chemicals in the food, chemicals in the water. They're doing everything they can to stop this. But it's a waste of time. It's a done deal. They're trying to threaten something that can't be threatened, and they're trying to deal with something that can't be dealt with. So like,
do you believe they're trying to stop what is about to happen if, like, let's say people were to align with one another in a frequency change? Do you think that's what ultimately this is boiling down to?
yeah, and I think it's like eventually what will happen with this will dissolve. And like the way I saw it was, it said that it was available for awareness, obviously always to be home, right? So some awareness withdraws back into the infinite. But it said that a lot of, if you like, people, you know, it's not a good description, but it said they would actually choose not to go all the way home into sort of like formless awareness, but they would go back into the prime dream. He said it's lovely there. He said, brilliant. He said, like, the thing is, he said, it's not about good or bad. He said, like, you know, you're confused about all that kind of stuff, right? He said, it's not about good and bad. He said, it's just awareness. That's all it is. He said, so for instance, like, if you were near a stove and I had some boiling water in a pan, like, would you put your hand in it? Like, no, right? It's not because I'm a good person or a bad person I wouldn't put my hand in it. It's because I'm aware that it would damage my hand to put my hand in it and it would hurt like hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Now, if you lived in a reality where the connection and information from the source is freely available, and also the energy being given from the source is freely available, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't hurt people, right? You wouldn't lie to people. You wouldn't steal from people. You just wouldn't do those things. And it won't be because, like, oh, you're really good people now. They are really good people, but it's just because they're not insane. Because the truth is self-evident. So they're not insane. That's all. That's the only difference. Yeah, they've got constant connection to their source. That they know who they are. They know what they really are, even though they're experiencing an illusion of having a body and knowing people and stuff. But they haven't lost the connection with who they really are. So therefore, they treat each other like they would themselves, because they're well aware that everybody is them. Simple as that. And that's what a dream based on consciousness looks like, compared to one that's been imbalanced and turned into a dream of separation. So, and like the Gnostics said that, like, the God of this world was like basically stupid, because he thought he was like, there was nothing above him. He's like completely lost contact with like the truth, basically. Like we're kind of like living out the consequences of that, you know? But it is open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? No, that is no joke about that. So, do you think that we came in here? Do you think there was a soul contract? Like, I think they showed me the wrong pamphlet. I said, okay, I signed the line. I came here and said, throw everything at me because I'm confident I can handle it. I could see my mouth doing that.
I think it's been done a number of different ways, right? So it's like there's obviously, ultimately, nothing can happen against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Nothing can make consciousness do something it won't do. Okay. So the fact that everyone's here at some level is because that they chose to be here, right? At some level, it might be well deep, but it's there somewhere, right?
Right.
And this reality was kind of like presented to consciousness a little bit like a casino in the middle of the desert, you know.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was like come on, come in, right? You know what I mean? Bright lights and music and free drinks and pretty girls and gambling. You know
Oh,
what I
that's
mean?
exactly what I feel like right there.
And
Yes.
it's kind of it's like sold to consciousness, you know. It's like, look, you if you want real, you know, really real, you know, this is what you want. This is amazing. You're gonna scream and laugh and you know cry and all that stuff. So a lot of consciousness obviously lent itself like willingly, you know, into the game, right? But just like a casino, the game's rigged. So it was like, come in, but you'll never leave. I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep you drunk. I'm going to keep you distracted. I'm going to keep you chasing happiness, and I'm going
Mm.
to keep gaslighting you, and you're staying here forever because you guys are feeding like the owner of the casino, right? So he wants you to keep playing. That's all he wants. He just wants you to keep playing. Does not want you to go. You know, and like a lot of, if you look at spiritual, like the spiritual paths that people have taken to enlightenment, it's sort of symbolically of like somebody who eventually realizes what's going on, stops drinking, stops gambling, stops doing all the other things. Do you know what I mean? And says, "Oh, I've just realised I don't want to be here." Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and yeah, and the good thing is that like when you truly make that decision, like they can't actually stop you leaving. You know, consciousness is in control, so it's like nothing can actually stop you. This place can only distract you, lie to you, manipulate you, but it can't actually do anything. That's why, you know, like when people talk about
Interesting.
in the conspiracy fields about, oh, they keep showing us what they're going to do. You know what I mean? Like the
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl and all that stuff, and they keep showing their symbols. And do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I know that at some level, people think it's to do with like getting out of karma. You know, they think that like, as long as they tell you what they're going to do and you don't do anything about it, you're basically giving them permission. And therefore, they sort of like, it releases them of some sort of like cosmic karma, you know?
Right.
Of course, on one level, that is kind of true, right? But it's not the ultimate reason, right? The top boys, right? They know why they have to do that, and that's because we have to give our permission
Yes.
by inaction and stuff like that. But we have to because actually, it turns out we're the only ones in this world that are actually in power. So
That's so
everything,
true. We do.
yeah.
For whatever reason, I said you have there's some point that you've given consent, or you might not have realized it, but you have given consent to it. Yes.
But that's your salvation because when you realise that you've given consent for everything that's been happening, you can withdraw it. But until you realised you had a choice to do that, they've distracted you, they've gaslighted you into believing that you don't have any power, or that you don't have a say. They can't actually make it so that you don't have any power or that you don't have a say, but they can convince you of it. That's all they can do because that's all they've got. It's like lies and deception and false. That's all they've got, right? They haven't got truth, so they haven't actually got any authority. It's like the labyrinth, isn't it? You know, with David Bowie and that. You know, it's all about making her feel like she's got no power in the labyrinth. You know, but the
Mm-hmm.
moment she wakes up and realizes that she's what it's all about, she takes it all back. It's all gone, and that's what's happening in this world at the moment. Okay, and they know it. They absolutely know it. Trust me, they do.
That
So
makes sense. Like
yeah,
that. I don't know why that just brought me such a sense of peace, but that really inside, I was like, yeah,
oh,
for
that's cool.
real.
Oh, yeah, just
Yes.
you
No,
know,
I appreciate that.
this is about empowerment. You know what I mean? But like I say, ultimately, that's like a bit of a falsehood, because I don't need to empower anybody, because they are the power. You know what I mean? It's like it's a sleeping lion, like David Icke would say. You know, it's like you don't need to sort of like turn the lion into a lion. It's already a lion. You just need to give it a so.
Just waking them out of hibernation.
Yeah. So if you want, I'll talk about the so the control system. Let's say when it realized that something was like had been ignited in me from the experience I had, it launched like a deception on me. And so I got abducted. I agreed to get into a contact program with these guys. Now they told me that, so basically, yeah, he told me that I wasn't human. Do you know what I mean? Like they were making out that I was an alien that was like living here. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was part of this awakening of humanity, you know. And that proper derailed me, because of course when I came back from that experience, I had this sense of like, oh, I'm not human. I just hadn't like properly like come to the realization that it wasn't because I'm not human because I'm an alien. It's just that I'm not human because I am pure awareness. That's why I'm not human. Do you know what I mean? But I definitely am having a human experience, right? Not an alien experience. But these guys were telling me that I was an alien. So I was starting to walk around. I'm looking at everyone else, like my family and, you know, everyone and the girl at the shop or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm not human. Do you know what I mean? These guys are human, right? So that was the first thing they did. They isolated me from humanity.
Yes, they do isolate you.
Right?
Oh, yes.
But it was all through gaslighting. It was all through telling me that I was on some great spiritual journey. Do you know what I mean? That this was all for my benefit, and like I was, if my life was going to burn down, but it was because it had to create something much better. And all right, I went along with it.
So you're saying that, like, my blood being monitored at this strange farm by these machines is probably just more of like smoke and mirrors. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, what?
It's a complicated situation, I think. There's so many different agendas running. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but it kind of simplifies back if you just talk about it as the control system. But within that, there's so many things going on. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to know more about your experiences, to be fair, Coley. You know, I didn't, but like, it does sound like you've had quite an interesting.
Go figure it'd be mine. But it really does. It bothers me because I'm trying to figure out, you know, like these are frequency machines. They're all tie into all of this stuff together. What was the point? You know, why? But I was isolated. I was kept very isolated, not only from my siblings, but from other kids. And it all stems around the blood. That's what they told me anyway. So yeah, I remember even going to this barn and looking under a microscope, and the guy's like, look, you know, you have high yeast contents, you have, you know, hypoglycemia, like you could see it. It was under a Rife microscope. And I was like, but what is this? I can digest it all, but what is this all about? That's where I go with it. But
I mean, obviously on one level, it is all frequency. That's why frequency machines are so important to them. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all frequency. This is all frequency, you know. But like, and also it's the same with the blood. So with the blood, you're talking about DNA, which is a transmitter receiver, which effectively is a frequency spectrum of information passing. You know, that's what it all is, you know. So again, there's reasons that blood's important to them, but I don't know everything about that. But DNA seems to be really important to them.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that it's a transmitter receiver. And obviously, if you're carrying a different antennae to other people, then you've got different potentials to other people. It's as simple as that. And they're well interested in people's potentials, you know. So if you think about it, Coley, right? So it's like it comes back to that thing in what we're saying. Like, so it seems like they're in control, right? But who's being insecure in this relationship? Do you know what I mean? Is it us or is it them? Us, we just keep going, oh, we put up with that. Oh, it's all right, mate. Yeah, you're licking more money from me. Okay, yeah, no worries. Oh, you are brilliant. Okay, you're going to make us all wear masks, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys are well insecure, man. Do you know what I mean? You've only got to have a slight, you know, like spiritual experience or have a slight different DNA in your blood and that, and they're going to have sleepless nights over it, sitting outside your house with laptops and stuff.
Right. That's the part that is like, wow, how does this make any sense? But you might be right. The way that you put it earlier is like, maybe we're not the ones that are losing the slip of control. Maybe this is slipping
Oh,
through their fingers, not
yeah,
ours.
absolutely. That's why they're working so hard. We don't even have to. All we have to do. See, the thing is about, like, again, a lot of people get confused about like sort of spiritual journeys and spiritual awakenings. It's not about that you've got to do anything. All you've got to do is stop doing some of the things you are doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which,
that's a good
which is a
point
lot
too.
easier. So one of the things you're doing constantly is deluding yourself. Do you know what I mean? You're identifying with a fictional character. That's insane, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, so all you got to do is like stop doing that, and then like your sense of awareness will just increase, because awareness isn't something that you have to create, because it's not based on belief systems or anything. It's real. It is truth. So it doesn't have to be created by your mind. It doesn't have to be sort of brought into existence. It already is there, right?
Yeah.
There's no need to do it now, but like, you can just do like silly little things, right? If you have never experienced like pure awareness, right? Just close your eyes. Right. Thoughts will start coming into your head now, right? For those with presence, they will realize there was a silence between like closing the eyes and the first thoughts that came into their head. For those that didn't notice, that gap in there was pure awareness. You weren't thinking anything, you weren't seeing anything, you weren't doing anything. You were
I
pure
like the way
aware,
you explained that
right?
because it's so
And
hard. Like, yes, that's
yeah,
great.
it's real, right? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it's actually real. It's not something you have to believe in. You don't need to have faith in the truth, because the truth is the truth. Do you know what I mean? So, like, but these guys, they're on the back foot. Okay, they're on the back foot, and like, and the thing, while I'm on a soapbox, right? Because you put me on one.
That's all right. We encourage that here.
What I would say, right, is the only true freedom that's going to come here, right, is never going to come through a fight between us and them. Okay, if you become, or not, you don't, like I said, you don't have to become it because you already are it. But when you identify with the level of you that is pure awareness, I'm just warning you that that level of awareness sees everything as one, and the war with these guys is over when you're at that level, right? If you want, if when I know people get angry, do you know what I mean, about like what's going on? Some of it is stomach turning. I'm well aware of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm more aware than most, right? But if you truly, truly want it over, there's no amount of hanging people or putting people in prison or whatever that's going to end that sort of behavior going on. The only thing that is actually going to put a stop to that behavior is the healing of unity consciousness. That's it. I don't want to be airy fairy about it. I'm not a hippie. I'm just telling you the way it is. When you become, if you can sort your life out and become like the pure awareness that you really are, and live your life like that, and treat the world like that, you're bringing awareness into a false system that is breaking it up and will eventually put a stop to that behavior. It is the only way it's going to happen. We have to bring these guys into the fold, not like make enemies of them or get them killed and then let the next lot that did the killing take over or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's not the way this ends. The way this ends is as one piece of consciousness coming back into the fold, and everybody involved in this game we're all just equally responsible for the world. It's as simple as that. That is our power, is to know that we're all the consciousness that has made this game happen. And it's not about blame and all that kind of stuff. It just
Mhm.
it just is. This world happened. Cool. There's a nicer world waiting. Brilliant. But first, we have to deserve to be there, and by deserving to be there is that we heal this separation and this kind of, the terrible things that happen. It needs to sort of end. Do you know what I mean? But it needs to end inside of every single person, because it is true that like this reality on one level is like holographic in nature.
Mhm.
So what happens in the world is a reflection of every individual. I know some people really don't want to hear that, but the truth is that everybody within their own little system has a little fascist system working inside of them that's keeping things from them. It's keeping the truth of who they are from them. Right? That's what the ego and the mind is. It's a mechanism created by a false construct in order to stop you realizing the truth of who you are. And it works. It really is good. Billions of people can attest to that. Right?
Because
But
if everybody realized who they were, I guess that would eliminate a lot of problems. A. B, do you think that, I mean, and people don't realize that consciousness is truly awareness. It's the heightened awareness of yourself, who you are outside, you know, like all perspectives of it. That is, it's still confusing. And I don't know if you can like help me to put it together. Cause I'm thinking, gosh, why the interest in other people and bringing other people that necessarily do not feel like this is their home? They don't feel like they blend in. They don't feel like they are, like I'm sure you get and you feel a lot too. But it's like almost like I felt like I was brought into this foreign world of crazy and I don't even know I can get off of this world of crazy. But there is rules. There are definitely rules to this game. I can't even tell you, but it just gets, like you said, I think that like how complex it can get. Your mind starts going 1,000 different ways. Am I human? Am I not human? That's not the question, right? Like
I think
it is.
You've got to be like, sort of like, so like I said to you, in detail, it is complicated. Like I said, there are a myriad of different agendas. There are a myriad of different beings like operating in these astral realms, but you've just kind of got to always remember to keep it back to the actual simplicity of what's going on. It's just consciousness identified with an illusion that needs to wake up from itself, heal that illusion, and move on. That is effectively what everyone's agenda is working at. Either theirs to stop you or yours to wake up or whatever. But like I say, I'm sorry, I mustn't talk in those terms. It's not us and them. It really isn't. But that is effectively, it's just when the narrative talked to me about it, right? It was a lot more poetic about it. So it didn't have any malice about it at all.
Oh, I bet not.
It said, look, it's an art piece, He said that's what it is. It's like a piece of art. And he said, I'm not threatened by any of it. And he showed me an image of like these people sitting in the front room watching telly. And then like Bugs Bunny came on the telly and had some TNT. And he said, like, this is what you're like at the moment. And all the people like jumped up off the sofa and run out of the house because there was a cartoon on telly with TNT. He goes, but from my perspective, you can tell that you're insane. And he said, obviously, he said the TNT is not real. He said, so why would I react to like what's going on in this dream? He said, it's not real.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
He said, I'm not threatened by anything that happens here. He said, nor are you. He said, that's why you don't mind playing these games. He said, that's why we don't mind. He said, ultimately, we're all okay. Do you know what I mean? He said, look, if you identify with me, he said, you'll realize this is a blink of an eye. And then the most amazing part of it was then it said, just look out. And there was no context for that, right? Look out, right? It was nothing, because I couldn't tell like what was left or right or up or down or anything. But I did. I sort of my awareness just kind of like looked out into this kind of sea, if you like, of consciousness. And there were white lights for as far as I could see. And I felt like I could see forever, But like in every kind of like direction. It was a little bit like, like a dark night sky.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like more vibrant than that because the lights weren't steady. They were all blinking in and out, just like what I'd seen right in front of me when it showed me our world, our reality, if you like. And it said every single one of them is the same as this. He said, I'm infinite. Wow. He said, I'm unlimited, infinite creative potential. He said, could you even comprehend that? Do you know what I mean? He said, like, there's an infinite amount of dreams I'm dreaming, all like, in an infinite now as well. Obviously, there was no time there, you know what I mean? So it was just like, he said, everything is like, I can show you your reality in slow time, if you like. He said, but from my reality, he said, it's already happened. He said, that's why I tell you when I said to you that it's a done deal. He said, the whole dream's over. When he wanted it to be, it's done. And it said, like, you've already come home. He said, why do you think you're here watching it? He said, you're already home. Like, time meant nothing, it meant nothing there. So I was just like, I felt really secure, you know what I mean? Like, I just came back, you know what? I was never born, you know what I mean? I can't die. maybe that's what some of the old teachings were talking about when they said, like, if you know me, you'll know no death. You might have been talking about just the truth, you know. If you know the truth, it's the end of death.
Yeah,
Because
because okay, that makes sense.
a persona can die and stuff. Obviously, a body, like within a false body in a false reality, you can die. Of course, you can. But I'm not that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not that. So of course, I've just turned into forever. I'm just forever. It's like, come on, then let's play then. Do you know what I mean? I'm in the cinema, I'm in the casino or whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'm not in a rush to get out of here anymore. It's like, because like there's a player.
Okay, yeah, and that's what it seems like from, I don't know, whatever you want to call the not necessarily the opposition, but on the opposite side of this, they don't seem like they have a timeline. They don't seem like they're rushing because to beat a clock, and I think that's a good point, that you realize that this is, you know, infinite. This, we're not dying, you know, or I don't know, I'm not going to say we can't leave here because I really would like to, just to get a different perspective, but. Yeah, that's it. That's well stated. Well put.
It's like it's what they're sensing, right? Is it like consciousness is going to come into the system? Like the way I saw it, it was like it came in like a tidal wave, and what they're seeing now is like the swelling. Do you know what I mean? Like they know what's coming, and they know that it's happening. It's obviously not happening on the physical level; it will play out here. But they're watching the energies. You see, they understand energy. They understand the full spectrum of like the creation that they've made. So they can see like the start of the wave coming in, and they know it's coming. Like they'll gaslight everyone to death. You know what I mean? With like the fact that they'll just go, you know, the people that are working for them and stuff. You know, they'll be telling them, "Oh, look at these soppy guys, man. They think they're going to save the world." All this stuff. And, you know, people will believe it. Of course they will. But those people are unconscious. So they think the world's being played at a game of like you and me with arms and legs and stuff. It's not. This is just the where it plays out on the screen. You know, the projector's where it's at. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, this is just what's happening in the world now. What you're seeing, the chaos now you're seeing in the world, is like I said, obviously there's a number of different agendas. It's complicated, but in theme, what is going on is the world's going into chaos because consciousness is coming into the world, right? That's why there's an explosion of people, all the rest of it, you know, an explosion of like craziness, right? It's a little bit like if you had like a bowl of muddy water and it's all like nice and sedentary at the top of the bottom, and then you add in clean water to clean it all out. The first thing that happens is it muddies the water. It just goes mad, right? I mean, it looks worse than when you started, but that's what's kind of happening now. So there's a kind of, in their heads, it's like, it feels like a battle. In consciousness is mind, if you like, or no mind. It's just whatever. It's just going to carry on doing what it's doing because it's done. So you don't need to fight anyone. Don't need to do anything. There's nothing really you need to do. All we need to do is just like support everyone else as they go through the awakening, because that's what's going to happen. You know,
that awakening is not a pretty process.
no, it's not, right? So, and that's why there's been a lot of people over the last, you know, obviously it's been going on for a few hundred years now, I think, but like, especially over the last sort of 40, 50, 60 years, there's been a lot of kind of icebreaker type consciousness that's come into a world that's like very distracted, very asleep, and has still managed to wake up within that, right? And I do believe that it's possible. And again, it's not like a judgment or a hierarchy, but I believe obviously there are souls in that prime dream that are also choosing to come into this at this time because they've got a good chance of waking up within it. Like they're coming in being born asleep just like everybody else, but because they've got that kind of divine spark about them, they're managing to sort of like, you know, be an icebreaker for the ones that come behind them. And they're going through all the crap, you know, that you go through a spiritual journey. It took me from the moment I was like 15, I probably didn't recover until I was about 35. That was the journey of my consciousness going, you know, to where it is now. It was like a 20-year journey of like a lot of ups and downs and all the rest of it and dangerous stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But like, but I'm seeing people do that now for 3 months. You know,
I know.
Yeah, and then like, next thing you know, like because of like this double-edged sword, which is the internet, you know, like the next thing you know, they know everything. Well, I had to read books and I had to study and go through all these stupid rabbit holes that led to nowhere. You know, they're seeing through all that now in months. You know,
Is
it's
it? Do
good
you
for
think
them.
are you gonna believe like once so many kind of like AI, like the belief of 100, maybe 100 people, and then it like reduces to a singularity that it's known among everybody, or do you think that this is
Yeah.
because we
So
are
yeah.
definitely all connected as one?
So absolutely, yeah, and that's the reason why that will happen. But within the relativity of this game, so what tends to happen is that it will reach a critical mass, and then the moment it does, you know, there's like that idea in there that like if you introduce like a grandfather clock, you know, to a room of grandfather clocks that are all swaying in synchronicity, and you bring one in that's not, it will fall into line with the others through resonant frequency, right? There's an aspect to that to humanity. So of course, people will come in. They might be different in their frequency and stuff, you know, when they're born, but a lot of them just got hammered into normal life. You know, just got brought into line by the overriding frequency. So it just keeps influxing like different, like it's like the symbolically, like just keeps bringing in new grandfather clocks, and then it tries 5. You know what I mean? And sees what happens. And at some point, it brings in enough that what happens is all the grandfather clocks that were there originally start beating to a new beat. Now, when that happens, and I think we're on the precipice of it, you're going to see people wake up that you never would have dreamed in 100 years would wake up, because the whole thing is switched. Critical mass has been reached, and now the whole room's changed. And you're going to see stuff going on that you'll go, "Oh, that's insane." That's like insane that they'll put a smile on your face. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, no,
you're already there. So it's like you can at that point. It's nice because you're kind of sitting back and watching everyone and just being there for them. You know what I mean? Because you are them, so you're going to be there for them. But you know that you like. There's something about your soul that you came in a little bit earlier. You did the work because you want to be support staff. Do you know what I mean? That you want to come in, you want to help raise awareness, help support awareness, and like and just let it do its thing. Do you know what I mean? And trust it. You know what I mean? Because it is you. So there's no separation between you and it. You don't have to worry about what it's going to do. Do you know what I mean?
no, yeah, no, that's a good point. So, what do you think? So if you're coming in here with your chances of waking up, right? Do you
Right.
know? I mean, why is that so significant? Do you think? Does that sound stupid? Because it sounded stupid when I said it, but I'm really
Do
trying to put this
you
part
mean me
together.
personally? Is that what you?
Anybody, like if you were to come here, like, and then you're like, oh, my chances of actually waking up there during that time, does that mean you have to serve less time here? Or does that mean that you
Yeah.
leave with a
So obviously,
different?
you obviously got like when those decisions would have been made, they wouldn't have been made from a state of consciousness like we're in now, right? So they would have been made from a place that was much more secure about the fact that it can't be harmed at all in reality. So it's easy to make like a decision like that from that level, you know what I mean? And say, yeah, well, that's cool, yeah. And then what you say is, I might get lost in there. And you go, yeah, well, obviously, but not forever, because like this world's not forever, only you're forever. It's like, yeah, okay, no worries. Do you know what I mean? So
God.
that would happen,
God.
right? But obviously, on the flip side of that, now that you're working your way back to that level of awareness, of course, you always read reality from the level that you're frequenting at, don't you? So like from this level, it seems a bit like, why the hell would I do this? You know, while I'm suffering here. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, but of course, yeah, that is relatively true. Of course it is. And I'm not belittling anyone's suffering, but it's just not ultimately true. You know, there's only one
Yeah.
ultimate truth, and it's not suffering. So like, you know, the quicker that you sort of like get yourself at that level, that's the end of suffering. So
And remain see, this is a good because I used to, I was a therapist for 7 years until I believe me, I saw the error of that way. But it's kind of like in coming through and going through all this, like you have to be the I always tell people, ride the wave, learn to ride the wave, be the passenger in the moving train. You can't take anything too serious in this life.
yeah.
But,
In fact, that's
it's
one of the things
true.
that that's one of the things the narrator told me in that experience. He actually sort of like almost like it was like with a kind of laugh, sort of said, "You take your life too seriously." Because I was
Yeah.
quite a depressed teenager, obviously. You know, I had a lot. Like I thought I've got problems. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, because I've got monsters coming in my room at night. You know what I mean? None of my mates seem to have them, and all the rest of it. And like, yeah, it was just the normal stuff with girls and all the rest of that kind of stuff. You know? And like growing up and all that kind of thing. And like, obviously, I was taking. You know, I was 15. I was taking life well seriously. Do you know what I mean? And it kind of after me, it sort of said, "Look at you, man." It said, like, you know, it said, like, look, it's a fictional character. It said, like, come on, just go back and do what you got to do. And I was just like, okay, all right, cool. And I was all prepped for it. Do you know what I mean? But until these guys came in, you know, and they had me meeting people, you know, like they I let them take me over. It was like and again, just like vampires and stuff. All of it was done with my permission. You know, nothing. Now looking back on it, I realised that like none of it was done against me. It was all done with just misguiding me and just gaslighting me. And me going,
So
oh yeah,
you mean like you channeled them through like in this reality? Like
no, they would completely take me over. So like, I the first time it happened, I was driving a car, and one of them came in and was sat behind me in the seat, and I was just on my own in the car at night time, and it was going, oh, I'd really love to drive a car, right? So talking telepathically in my head while I'm driving.
mm-hmm.
Now, when I'm looking in the rearview mirror, I can feel it. I was really good at. I am really good at feeling presence, you know.
Yeah.
But like what I could see was like a silhouette, and but like a sort of shimmering kind of like whitish silhouette, you know, but like humanoid shapes, you know, head, shoulders. And he said, "Oh, do you think I could come into you and like because I don't know how to drive a car, so like I could do it if you let me like come in, you know?" And I was like, "Oh right, okay, yeah, you know." And then what these guys would do as well, like the first couple of times that it was really sort of like having these conscious interactions on this level, was they'd always make me feel really blissful when they were near me. They could they could instigate it. Do you know what I mean? Like I just feel this kind of love and light all the time. Oh, these guys, you know what I mean? And they would, so I agreed to it, and I just went, "Oh yeah, mate, yeah, come in." And then I experienced what it was like to. It was a little bit like being in a cockpit, and like you know, like it wasn't like I was gone, but it was like I just gave over the controls to the other pilot, and then I sit there and I just watch him doing stuff. And I was just like, as consciousness, I just sat there, just like not doing anything to my body, just letting him do it. But he was like using my knowledge and stuff like that. You know, he was using my coordination or whatever. But it was,
Wow.
it
What
was
did you feel like after? I've channeled stuff before, but this like the intensity of it. How? I mean, did you feel like, hey, there's something is wrong here? Like that did not feel right with that situation, or were you just like into that whole bliss and euphoric like?
yeah, not at all. Yeah, I didn't feel anything wrong at the time. I just was like, oh, okay, brilliant. And he said, now the thing was, what had happened was, it was like kind of, he was working on behalf of that group, and it was just a ruse. They needed permission to enter me,
Yeah.
and I had to give it. So that's how they went about giving it. Later on, I found out that was the case, because they said, "Oh, you gave us permission," you know, and it was like, I saw the scene in my head, like it was that moment when I agreed to say, "Oh, come on, then you can come into me and use my body," you know. But that
Yeah,
was
that's exactly that. Yeah. Oh
it was
yeah.
a spiritual possession, right? That's what it was. Do you know what I mean? It's a spiritual possession, right? Now, what they would do is then, like, so there was like a group of people that I was kind of like just like, you know, friends and stuff like that, you know, and they'd send me into the group, and they start telling me stuff about people. So I'd get like voice communications, do you know what I mean, like about people, and they were using it like a hypnotist selection. You know, have you ever watched a hypnotist on stage? You know, like, and they'll pull like 20 people up, you know, and then they'll hypnotize them all. And then as like they try to get them to do things, they sort of like can tell like who's not really that hypnotized, and they'll sort of tap on the shoulder, say you can go. And then they'll whittle it down to sort of like there'll be 3 people, and they've got those 3 people banged down. You know what I mean? They can do anything they want to those 3 people. They're proper under, yeah. And that's what they would do. They would like have me talking about like conspiracies and about aliens and stuff, you know. And then like some people would show interest, some people would walk away, you know, that kind of thing. And then the ones that would show interest, they would start directing like the conversation like straight at them, like pull them in. Do you know what I mean? People were saying like to me
Yeah.
afterwards, like, oh, I said something was really weird was going on in my head when you were talking earlier and stuff. You know, people were getting touched and like their heads opened up and stuff when I was talking. And then they would whittle it down and get one. And then when that person was like, you know, fully on board, like, you know, I want to meet the aliens. Yeah, I want to meet the aliens, Joe. They would arrange for meetings to happen. But all it was to do was they were using me as a bridge. They told me that they were using me as a bridge in order to like wake humanity up and stuff and wake them up to the ET presence. But what they were doing was just using me as a bridge to get into other people's lives. So if someone likes, you know, like say had an encounter with them, next thing that would happen is they'd start having loads of other encounters and having loads of poltergeist activity and all that sort of thing. They were just using me as a kind of like doorway to other people. And
so you're kind of recruiting them for them, basically.
I was allowing these entities to like latch onto them in a way. Do you know what I mean? As if it was just like an exercise in like
it does. It's like this is where the paranormal just comes rushing in because I'm like, this is so man. And I understand, like, so much of this happened outside of your awareness. I mean, they did it they tricked. I mean, that trickery is used on so many levels, and it's hard because it's like that all that trauma is the only way through like the only way to this and through this, and all my experience and everything that I've seen so far is it's trauma. So it can play on that trauma, but then it also, I'm sure a part of you has to feel like, man, did I just you know, I've done stuff not knowing, not willing, and it's like, you know, that to on top of everything weighing on you, I'm sure is a lot.
That was like the thing was that as time went on, like what I was perceiving happening to people wasn't in line with these benevolent, higher evolved beings. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, right, I'm not sure. Like something's not making sense. You know, it's like this is over years. This is right. So I eventually started calling them out, and I was like thinking, hang on a minute. You know, I was like having these like waves of like lucidity, and I was thinking, oh man, you don't know who these guys are. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the truth. You don't. They told me who they are, but people lie. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, of course, like, these guys are strangers. I got sucked like into it because like I so badly wanted answers for why I didn't feel human and why I felt like I was in a strange world, or whatever. That I totally like forgot about my experience when I was 15, and I was completely on with these guys. Do you know what I mean? They came with all the answers. You see,
Yeah.
they came with why. Oh, you're special. I believed I was special. I believed that I was here, like, you know, saving the world sort of thing, you know. I lost 6 stone, all this stuff, like weird stuff, you know. I ended up, like, my marriage broke down. I ended up living in a tent. And all the time they were telling me that this was all like the best thing that could happen to me. Right.
Yeah.
And I was seeing like stuff happening in other people's lives. I don't want to talk on their behalf, you know what I mean? But like, and I wasn't happy about it. So I started calling them out, and I started saying, "Oh, I'm not doing this anymore," you know. And at first they were like, "Well, look, I know it seems a bit like this, but it's not. It's honestly, you know, trying to get me to trust like this long-term plan, you know."
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like,
Trust plan. Yeah.
and I was just like, I was like, "No, it's not. I'm not doing it." I was like, you know, I said, my life is a complete mess, right? I'm not happy. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've
Ah, yeah, I know
just got,
exactly what you mean. And
I've got
it can happen in like a second. It doesn't take anything. It's like
I
gone.
was like, I don't trust you anymore. Like, you know, prove to me that you know,
Yeah.
show me something I can hold on to. You know what I mean? Because like now, then I saw a series of things, right? Like all at the same time. Like, you know, as in obviously on some level, at the time, what I would have considered my higher self was like obviously trying to help me out and get me back, right? And like I saw like documentaries. I saw this thing where this guy was saying he was talking to a shaman in South America. And he was saying, and the guy was doing artwork on the caves and stuff, you know. And he said to him, "Oh," he said, "why are you drawing like UFOs?" You know, and the shaman went, "What do you mean UFOs? What are UFOs?" And he said, "You know, spaceships and stuff." He said, "That's fascinating." You know, he said, "Oh, they're not spaceships." he's like, oh, but they look like, he goes, that's what we call spaceships. He went, no, no, no. He said, they're the craft, he said, that the astral beings use to go from their frequency to this frequency. He said, like the guys in the control system, he said that they just use those to come down and get us and take us to the other world.
Now that would make sense.
I was like, oh, this guy hasn't been exposed to any TV. he hasn't been watching the documentaries the government really don't want you to see on UFOs.
Right? Just come over, we'll have a binge, TV watching day so you can catch up here.
You know what I mean? And he's just got like gnosis, he's just like, taking like, ayahuasca and all that stuff and just having direct experience, right? And then I sort of like looked into the like the Nag Hammadi texts and stuff and realized that like they were talking about 2,000 years ago, saying that the archons and that look like unborn fetuses with unblinking black eyes. And I was like, that sounds familiar. Do you know what I mean? And like, of course, then they're saying that there's other type of archons, and that's, like, and I'm not saying that they're right. I'm just saying, but they were obviously cataloging something that was going on with them.
Right.
And saying the ones looked like human beings and stuff like that, and like reptilians and stuff. And you're like, oh, that's weird. Like, what? Nothing's changed in 2,000 years. These guys are taking everybody all the time. 2,000 years ago, and they're still doing it now. Like, this is not like, it doesn't sound like highly advanced technical zeta reticulans to me. I was thinking, why? Like, I was thinking, like, is there a genetic program? Is it not very good? Is that maybe they should ask us for some help, because they seem to be taking genetic material from people for forever. And you're like, if it's cloning, mate, just go and see some of the elites. We've got people down here that can do cloning.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, if you're taking like sperm and ovaries from people like over and over and over again, like, have you not sussed it by now? Like, how to do what you want to do? It doesn't ring.
It doesn't make sense. Right? You're right. No, but you're very right.
You've got possibly millions of people around the world talking about interactions with non-human intelligences. It's just like, it wouldn't make sense if they're all coming from Alpha Centauri, like, you know what I mean, and waving us as they fly by. That's not what's going on here. This is a constant presence. This is an absolute constant, day in, day out presence. And it's been going on for time, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, right, none of this is making sense. This is a deception. I started coming across like information like about, like obviously, a lot of people are talking about coming deception, aren't they? It's made the rounds, you know what I mean, in the alternative media and stuff. And it makes sense to me, when I see all the narrative coming out on the news now, where they are pushing an alien narrative now. I mean, you've got Spielberg coming, like,
I know.
Yeah. And it's
like, I know, gosh.
And we have like people like saying, oh, like finally the truth's coming out, you know what I mean? And they've been trying to hide it for us for 80 years. And all I would argue with that is just saying, well, look, it is possible that that's a complete inversion of the truth. It actually might be that for the last 80 years or so, they have started the false alien narrative, where they wanted you to believe that, like, the military trying to hide this from you, and and all this sort of stuff, and the men in black come round if you see a UFO, but that could all be theatre to actually create the narrative. You know what I mean? We know they're not beyond that, right? Our intelligence.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
Right?
No.
Right? So, like, I mean, I've been under surveillance, but it was all overt. So I was thinking, well, this is weird, because like these guys aren't very good at this. And of course, like it's not that they're not very good. If they want to watch you, they don't want you to know that you don't know. But when people are saying, "Oh, I've been surveilled," it's because they've let you know. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's all theatre. It's like, and some of it goes on. And you get people, they see UFOs and then they think, "Oh, that was weird," but then they get under surveillance and then it's all like, it makes it like concrete in their head. Oh, that was something weird, because there goes and watching me, and now I'm going to tell the world about it. There's all these stories out there in the UFO field, but it's just because you see an alien, right, or you see a UFO, it doesn't make you automatically enlightened, right? It doesn't actually mean that you know any more than you did before, other than what you actually saw. Does that make sense?
Yes. If anything, you know now less than what you ever thought you knew.
You can go out to the world and start filling in the gaps. right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a human tendency to do that. Do you know what I mean? Especially with abductions and stuff. And I'm not taking away from anyone's experiences of abductions, right? It really is happening. But we do have a tendency to want to fill in the gaps so that we can live with ourselves and sleep at night. You know, and I've seen plenty of testimony from people where I think you're telling one story about this all being good and benevolent, but your face is telling me a completely different story. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, like, yeah,
Yes.
and you're
Yeah.
lying to me necessarily as much as you're lying to
Into
yourself about,
yourself.
you know, like kind of Stockholm syndrome. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah.
they can only live with it because they got to go, oh, do you know what? I think it was actually all really good for me. That's why they took my memory away and stuff. That's why, you know, it's because it's all really good.
You're right. And there's certain people in this community too. I even had a scathing email. And the guy's like, you cannot, I'm insulted that you painted ET. I said, you know what? This is subjective. I'm not going to tell anybody that they have to go out and they have to idolize something we don't exactly know 100%. It's absolutely crazy. But there's people in this community. And it does, because I was so confused. I thought, man, I would almost sit there and talk about my initial, and they had no facial expressions whatsoever. I was detained, and they said it was for contamination purposes, whatever. But I remember saying after that, I thought that they had great empathy. And when I said it, I almost wanted to throw up, because I was like, I don't think that's true. Like, it was coming out of my mouth, but I was like, this could probably be furthest from the truth if we're going to actually go there.
And the thing is, we know, right, even down here, you know what I mean? Like, you can take substances that will like mimic euphoria and stuff, you know, and mimic love, you know. And like, so you got to assume that like they can make you feel things, you know, and they can get you to misread the situation, because a lot of the time we interpret reality by the way we feel, don't we? So it's like, you know, if you're being made to feel good about something, you might interpret it differently to what it actually is, you know. Whereas if you've been allowed to feel the fear that you really wanted to feel, you might have interpreted it differently again. But
That's
you know,
true too, but and then you have to, what is it that remain, because anytime I would come in contact with a craft, it was like the best
yeah,
experience in the world. It was
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it was just like, but then it was that anticipation. Will I ever see it again?
Mm.
Will I
Have you
ever?
have you heard of Jason Ford? He's like a baseball player. He come out with some serious
Yes.
experience, but he talks about how at first he's like it was always making him feel euphoric. Every time he saw a light in the sky or anything like that, he had this feeling of like energy and bliss coming over him and stuff, you know.
I just
But,
watched something on him last night. That's crazy
right,
that you said that. Yeah.
right. But he talks about the journey of how it was a deception, and once it got his hooks into him, it like revealed itself of what it was. So, but like, yeah, and that's a common story. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
other than the people that just never wake up to it and just live their whole lives just like in not knowing, do you know what I mean? Or gaslighting themselves that actually it's all really good stuff. And I say, and I'm not, I will say this, right? And I don't, like I say, I'm not looking to sort of like say to people, if you're having positive experiences, and you may well be, do you know what I mean? Because I don't know everyone else's experience. I don't, right? And I will say this as well, that once I did have an experience with some positive guys that were not from here. Everyone always thinks that like all my experiences, like I'm saying, it's all negative, but that's not always been the case. I did one night. One night, I had an experience with three blokes that came into my front room when my mate was there, and they were awesome. And they were not negative at all. They were really spiritually mature, really nice, not threatening in any way, but they were awesome. Do you know what I mean? And I'll tell you about it. Right, they came in, and I was sitting on one sofa, and my mate was sitting on the other sofa, right? And we've been meditating, and we both had a telepathic come through at the same time, just saying, just stay as you are, like, because we were really chilled, you know, like sitting there really centered. They said, we're coming in a minute, like, just don't panic, please, you know. And he looked at me and went, Dave, did you just get that? I was like, yeah, I did. And he said, what should we do? I said, well, let's just stay chilled, mate, you know, just keep breathing, see what happens. So these guys come in and they walk through the back door, right? I had a door that went out to the garden. They didn't open it; they just walked straight through it. But they did use the door, which I thought was a bit odd. They came in. One sat next to him on the sofa. Another one came and knelt down. Like I had my legs crossed on top of the sofa, and he was like on the floor, like crouched down, looking at me. And then another one came in, and he stood in between the sofas. And they were like doing this thing, right? They were like, their heads were like almost flashing when they were talking to each other. But it was like you could hear that there was information going on, but it was all like too quick. I couldn't take any of it in. So anyway, I passed out at that point. Right, I had no recollection of what happened afterwards, but my mate they kept him conscious, and he watched the whole thing. He said they were there for about 7 or 8 minutes, and they laid me down on the sofa. And then the one that was kneeling down by me was passing a light underneath my body, like that was in the sofa, you know what I mean? But he had a light, and he was going from head to toe, and he just kept going backwards and forwards. And my mate's sitting there. He said they weren't stopping me from moving. He said, but I was just scared to. he said nothing. It wasn't like, when people say I was paralyzed or whatever. He said I wasn't. He said, but he said there was something about them. He said I just felt like I should just stay still, And so he said in his head to the guy that was sat next to him, he said, like, what are you doing? And they said, oh, we're helping Dave out, right? He said there's things going on with him where like he would be dead by now, right? Because he'd be ill. He's having things done to him to make him ill. He said, and we come in. He said, and we write the energy in his body. He said, like, until he's well again. He said, and that's what's keeping him going.
Oh,
So,
wow.
And my mate just thanked him for it. He just said, oh, thanks. He said, like, so they sat me back upright again on the sofa. And then I came to again, and they were still there. And the guy that was sat next to my mate, he waved at him like a kid. He went like that.
That's cool, yeah.
And then they got up, and then my mate waved back at him like that. They got up and they said, look, we can't stay long because, like, this place, they're coming on us soon. We have to go. We have to get out of it. And I knew, like, when the way they were talking was like they were talking about this matrix. They were saying, like, we come from outside of this reality. We're not coming from another star system, another planet. There's this false reality, which effectively is just a frequency band of information. That's what it is. It's not really a world and stuff. It's just information, right? And they were dropping into a frequency. That's what they were doing. They were dropping into a frequency, which I think that they were talking about coming from the prime reality, and that they can break into this separation. Now they are, or it'd be easy to be forgiven for saying that they are the good guys. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't call themselves that because, like we discussed that principle earlier, they're not good. They're not better. They're just conscious.
Yeah.
That's the difference. They're just conscious, right? So they behave as you would if you were conscious.
Okay. Right? It's not, so none of this is Ascension 5D. Okay,
no.
That makes more sense to me right there.
Nobody's not good enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's the way our dualistic kind of reality works, isn't it? We all think that if you're saying that something's good, you mean something else is bad, or do you know what I mean? Like,
it's a spectrum.
Like beyond this reality, when you're connected to like balance, you just see everything as balance. You don't assume one thing is not the other. It's like when someone says about political parties, where if you vote for that one, you must hate the other side, and then what they say is liars. Whatever. It's too dualistic in his thinking. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, but they had a lovely feel about them, right? They weren't trying to make me feel blissful or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were just normal. There's none of this cloak and daggers and arty-farty stuff, you know what I mean? Of like
big grand stage,
love and light, and the world's going to be a better place, and all this. They weren't saying any of that. They were just nice people. But you could feel like a spiritual maturity. It was like, do you know what I mean? Like, it was old. That's how it felt, like ancient,
And what did they look like?
So again, they look like people. They look like human beings. So yeah, the one that stood in the middle, he had like a shoulder length hair, and the one that was down near me had dark hair, like short dark hair, and the guy that was sat over with my mate, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really get a good. It was dark in the room.
Sure.
Right. Well, it wasn't. I couldn't tell you like their eye color and stuff like that, but they had like human features. They had ears and eyes and noses, and they were bipedal, like they were human beings.
Yeah.
But but they were just really cool. They were cool, and I was just like, oh right. And now that happened like in the middle of the other stuff that was going on, and that was one of the cracks in my allegiance, if you like. Because when that happened, I came away from that going, oh, there's something up with these other guys. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, I could see it was fake. It was the smile of the guy leading you into the casino. It was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no.
Right, and I was just like, then they were starting to crack for me. And like when I eventually I had to go through some stuff to free myself from them, right? And they eventually they tried to take my life. So I ended up in hospital for 4 weeks, and but then after that they stopped. So I think now, do you want me to tell you about it? Have we got time or?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I moved away, right? Because I was living in a tent. I had no money. I was struggling. Everything was gone, right? And so I decided I'd go move up to my mum and dad's in Wales. And I thought, like, I've got to sort my life out. Do you know what I mean? I thought like I put an end to these guys, and I needed to like go and get a job and just ground myself, and and close myself off, right? So I went up there, and then there was a night. I'd been up there for about 2 weeks, and I was bored. You know what I mean? I wasn't like properly depressed, but I was a bit bored because I was used to having a social group and all that kind of stuff. And then one night, I'm walking around the house, and there was the most terrible feeling like hanging on me. It was like I'd never experienced it before. It was the only way I could describe it was like if you were in a lift. What do you call them in America? Is it an elevator?
Oh, like an elevator?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were in an elevator and like a serial killer walked in the elevator and stood behind you, that's how it felt. And the door's shut and he's got bad intentions.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how it felt, right? And you're stood there with this guy looking at you like this, right? That's how it felt. That's how it felt. And I couldn't get away from it. I'd go outside,
Couldn't shake it.
couldn't shake it. And then I've made the worst mistake that I could have done. I wasn't streetwise when it came to this stuff at the time. I wasn't. That's why I'd let these guys in. That's why I'd let them do everything they'd wanted to do. You know what I mean? That's because I thought I was spiritually awakened. You see, and that's the worst place to be in because I was totally misguided. I thought I was awakened, right, and I wasn't. Do you know what I mean? I'd had awakening experiences, but I wasn't awakened.
Oh,
So anyway, so I go, oh, I'm just going to go to bed and go to sleep. I thought that was, that's all I can do. I can't. It was horrible. It was horrible, the feeling, right? So I went to bed. 3 days later, I woke up in hospital.
Oh, God.
That was my experience. That's all I remember, right? And I got told I'd been in a coma, and like, so what happened, right? Is I got up in the middle of the night, and I'll tell you this because like we should talk the bare bones, the truth of it.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but all I can say is I don't have any recollection of this. This is just what I know happened because of like the ambulances and all the rest of it. Right. I got up in the middle of the night, went downstairs, found my mum's drug cupboard, emptied a bottle of diazepam into me, and then sunk it with a bottle of whiskey, and then went out and walked into a field and collapsed in the field. And it was like in January, right, where it's freezing cold, right? So I've collapsed in a field up the road, probably dying of hypothermia and the effects of the drugs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
An ambulance pulled up. The driver needed a wee. He got out, hopped over the fence, walked a little bit into the field to go for a wee. Started going for a wee, looked down, and I was at his feet.
Oh God.
Saved my life. Picked me up, rushed me to hospital, stomach pump, coma, out. Then I went into a psyche ward for 3 weeks because of its suicide attempt. Right?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
But I think that what happened was that obviously it was like a divine intervention, that guy coming and saving me. Right? And I think at that point, I think they realized that they can't take me out. There was some sort of like protection
Protection
around
for
me.
you, yeah.
And then I didn't hear about him. I didn't see him for 2 years.
Maybe that was enough for you to believe it, because for whatever it is, whatever reason, your belief system, it's like kind of triggers that. But
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that had happened and the way that it did. So you're still here. So do you think they kind of just went on autopilot, went to sleep, and like you were driving the car and they took over and it was like your elimination, like supposed to be your elimination?
So I think that, yeah, they obviously sent an entity to that night that was murderous, right? That his intention was to murder me. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
obviously, he was capable of doing things like manipulation of the body when you're in the astral or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And like, and it stayed on me all night. And you know, it was gone. You know, when I woke up, and it was that feeling was gone. It wasn't there anymore. So like, it done what it done, and it's gone. But I assume it walked me up the road and it walked me into that field until the drugs took over, and then I lost, the
Right.
ability, legs and stuff, you know. And it was like, right, job done, job done. But it wasn't.
Which you would, yeah. Well, if there, Chris Minor, I just saw him. Hey, Chris, he's in chat. We did a show with Steve Mara the other day, and he talks about all of this stuff and how we're assuming that this is all different, but it's just the way that might be our perception of the way we're looking or what would work for us, but that this is all non-human intelligence, and that kind of like you really are going down some roads and some paths. It's good to know that there are, because I always felt that there were good ones out there as well,
Yeah.
that you've come in contact, and the ones that I came in, I'm not going to tell you that the gray is the short or the tall. I went through all that, but I did meet 3 of them that look like you, more like you and I do.
Okay. Right.
um
Okay. I've no
but
doubt that all that stuff goes on. Do you know what I mean? Like I said to you, everything and anything's going on in it, you know.
yeah,
But there's got to be there's untold reasons. They've got unlimited resources. They're doing whatever they want to do. So it's like, yeah,
I
I've
feel
got
like
no.
we're in The Good Place. Is this not? Have you ever seen that movie or the show, The Good Place? That's what I feel like. This
Yeah.
so much of this is
And of
like
course,
I
that's
said,
the thing.
we're just in The Good Place.
And what we totally gaslighted with from the moment we're born. What a wonderful world it is. Do you know what I
I
mean? It's a
know.
wonderful world. Hey, everybody, look at the beautiful world. It's so lucky to be here. Oh, come on, you're going to get a job and a car and the girl and the holidays. You
Oh,
know,
you're gonna get your
oh,
house with a white picket fence and your yeah. Oh
there's
yeah.
so much stuff to see, touch, taste, look at, I mean, whatever, you know. It's like it's a massive distraction park because like that's all it's got now. It's like it has to distract you, it has to gaslight you. You know, hell's not like, going to be like lava and stuff. You know, it's going to be paved with flowers and lovely sunsets.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, I 1000% am on board with you on this one too.
it makes the
Oh yeah.
pain. It makes the pain worse. You know, like if this world was just one horrendous thing after another, as in like for everybody, just
Expected.
constant torture, we'd have all rejected it a long time ago. We'd
You're
have all
right.
gone, I've seen through this. This can't be real. So no,
Right.
it can't do that. It has to mix it in with love and good things, and you know what I mean? Yeah, because then when the
Mhm.
pain comes, it's even more. It spikes. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's how they keep getting you over and
Oh,
over
that is
again.
dirty.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's dirty. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
You're right too, and that's where the spectrum, like, I always tell people, "Oh, to know the good, you have to know the bad. To know the bad, you have to know the good."
And they
The
know that.
whole
They know that. They can't just
spectrum.
do all
Yeah.
bad all the time. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's
No.
too much.
And this
I
is
bet
kind
there's
of what
been
Daryl
programs.
Sims says. This is the point of least resistance. They're gonna try to keep you at the point. It's less work on them. It's less energy. They get what they want.
So
But
I think there's been like, I think there have been like resets and that, where they have worked out in the program that like they can do it more efficiently. They can get the energy out of us more efficiently. And I think like if you was to talk to certain levels of that hierarchy, they would suggest to you that the reason why they're doing all the stuff they're doing now and the technology and that is because they are bringing it into another reset. And we've heard them talking about it, haven't we? Like the WWF and stuff. They're sort of saying, "Oh yeah, the Great Reset." They love mentioning the word.
Oh, that great, yeah, that old Great
But they could be
Reset.
talking about that at the deepest level. You know, that reality is going to be reset, right? And they're all going to be in an AI digital prison, and you're going to feed them more directly. It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait. But of course, but that's part of their own gaslighting to their own minions. They can't tell them, "Oh, by the way, we're running for our lives scared because fucking love's involved." So they've got
Love
to say,
is blind. Yeah, like,
they're just saying, "Oh, this is brilliant. You know, the Antichrist is coming. It's all going to be brilliant. It's going to be a big party for us guys. We're all going to be billionaires, and we're all going to get fed loose to death." You know what I mean? With all the people, you know, all the consciousness that we trap forever. Of course, they're going to tell themselves that. Well, so they should, because it helps them sleep at night. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, but of course, it's not reality.
God, no. It really isn't, and it's really when you say it like that, that's where I've gotten to. I'm like, this place isn't really what it appears to be. If you watch The Good Place, like they can't even swear it, but you know, and I'm like, and they always feel like they shouldn't have been there, and I'm like, man, this is. If I woke up and this is what it was, I think I'd be able to digest it just a little bit better. But you're right, like all this stuff that you're talking about, it plays on your emotions. It fuels that. Like if this were we woke up and there was just mass tragedy galore, we're not going to expect to have a good day. We're not going to expect to live that perfect life, and then we won't crash those crashes that come through.
Which they've managed to lose that better now, haven't they? Because, like, you know, like 100 years ago, like they, you know, murdered a load of people in a village. You didn't get to hear about it.
No.
But now, when they're doing stuff, look at some of the stuff. You know, and I don't like to talk about, you know, certain countries or whatever, but you sort of see some of the stuff that's happened. And then you see the way it's been promoted around on the internet all around the world, so that everyone's upset about it. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but I'm just saying you've got to see the game at the level it's being played. This is a consciousness that is strengthened by people's tears, you know. So therefore, it doesn't only want to do those deeds to those people and affect their families and the people involved. It wants to send that internet image all around the world and get a little bit of food off millions of people. You know, and like if we keep playing a reactive game, we are basically just feeding the very thing we don't want. We give it power to do more. You look at all, like, if you brought it down to, like, you know, like any sort of haunted, right? What do people say? They say, "Oh, it started off with just, like, you know, small taps and scratches and stuff like that, you know," and then they'll say, "And it scared the shit out of me." And it's like, and then it got stronger.
Got more confidence. The next, your dresser's dumping over in the middle of the night. Yeah, oh yeah.
Exactly, right? Because you're giving it the energy to use against you. You're stuck in a loop now with it, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of done that with this control system. We feed it the energy it wants, and then it uses that energy against us. It's like speeding cameras, you know.
Let me tell you about those. We got those all over here. Yeah.
But everything's based on everything in this world's based on the same system. You pay the fine, it pays for more cameras, the cameras find more cars, you pay for it. I mean, it's like you're stuck in a loop, right?
Very true.
With the control. But me and you can stop that. Yeah, there has to be a point in a circuit where you can stop it, and a consciousness is where the butt stops. So
you want to know? I think I've been working on a way. I mean, do you know? Have you figured? Okay, so the inversion. If we're creators and certain people on here are creators, like after we're done giving the narrative, we take the narrative and we invert it, and eventually, even though people aren't going to buy it, they're not going to believe it, but this is kind of how it works, you know. And then you start to you kind of go on. Okay, well, I know you're not going to really buy into this, right? 100%, but I just think of the Martha Stewart smile, like when I was just not in the mood and I'd smile to Martha, and eventually it did. It helped and it took over. But the inversion, if we can flip it, and if the rule of that, I think that's a way we can get out.
It's a good rule to live by, because this world is an inversion. So by inverting the inversion, you're kind of right.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're like, you know, you could with the data, and I was like sitting here, I'm working through this idea because I thought, man, I got to figure a way because we've hit the point of AI. Everybody's like, yeah, we're past this point. Well, okay. We hit the past the point, reset us, 10 times over. We could have done it and ripped that Band-Aid off. But for some reason, it's like this torturous. And I think that if we learn maybe to rephrase this, I think that with AI out there and being a creator, we're making it weirder. We're making everything weirder, and it's going to continue to spiral that way until I think we bring it back in. But it would definitely take more than just one person. It's hard to explain how to, but
the good thing is it's got nothing to do with one person. Not this time.
no,
You know what I mean? No. Yeah. Like I said to you, the people are like just the way it plays out in physical reality. It is to do with one, but it's just one consciousness. Like Bill Hicks said, we are one thing experiencing itself subjectively in an infinite amount of different ways. Why is he the wisest guy? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? He's exactly bang on, right? Because that is exactly the situation. So there is like the reason why it hasn't happened before and it won't happen after is because ultimately everything's perfect and consciousness is running the show. And like I said to you, consciousness just like said to me, like quite flippantly, like without any care, he said, "Oh yeah, but it's over now."
So do you think that and why it's like we hear, okay, that the good, well, there we go into the duality, but this side wins always with that side, and this and this, and I'm like, it just can't play out that easy. It just cannot play out that easy. But would we come here if we couldn't somehow flip this back around?
So what you got to understand is, right, so everything that exists, right, is in like everything that manifests, let's say, right, manifests because it vibrates, right? It vibrates between positive and negative charge. Okay. Now, one thing to know, obviously, is that if it vibrates, it's an illusion, right? Now, this world, and we know that our bodies are vibrating on the atomic level, everything's vibration, right? The world is a vibration because it's an illusion. And the only way it manifests itself is by maintaining the oscillation between a positive and negative charge, right?
Oh, the
now you see that all the films and all the religions and everything have all got one thing in common: the light versus the dark, the good versus the bad. Okay, yeah. Because that's how they keep themselves in existence, because they are oscillating all the time between positive and negative charge. Everything in this world
keeps it. Oh, okay.
Only the truth doesn't do that. Only the truth doesn't do that, because the truth doesn't need to oscillate to exist. The truth exists in stillness. It exists in nothing. It is. Only illusions vibrate. Right?
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So what do you, when you're feeling like the energy, like right around, or what's coming through, I don't know. I have my little, obviously, like being an experiencer, you have your little parlor tricks, I call them. But what about the, like when I'm sensory stuff, or even I use it to kind of keep things out or away, and you feel like that vibration, is that because that's the deception, or that's like are we playing with the matrix? Would that make sense?
Do you mean how do I protect myself and stuff now from?
Yeah, but I guess when I do it, I feel that vibration. Is that necessarily like?
Yeah, because I don't sort of like. So basically, I don't protect myself at all from this reality or the entities in it anymore. I went through a phase of like doing that, but like, I got to a point where there was another stage to my awakening, if you like. And I should explain that because it's part of the journey. So we talked like when I was a kid, that I was kind of perfectly unconscious,
Right.
The nature of my experiences was with greys and with me having very little awareness of what was going on in those experiences. And then I told you about the existential experience, and that when I came back from that, my consciousness was somewhat separated from the persona. Now, after I healed from the experiences with the entities that were starting the contact program, a unification of consciousness occurred. Now, that was when, like I say, a lot of people I know on the spiritual journey are at that place where they're capable of being a silent observer of their thoughts, and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they can, that is what I would suggest is partial awakeness, right? It's the first thing that happens, which is the separation of self. But what eventually happens once you go on to go through a few more things is that a reunification happens. Now, I don't have that silent witness behind like my reality anymore, because there is no separation between the external and the internal. I just don't have it. I don't have a higher self. I am my higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no entities coming to me anymore because I am them. There's just, it's unity consciousness. And the search for spiritual awakening at that point, it finished. There was no, I'm not searching for anything anymore. I'm not trying to become spiritually enlightened anymore. I don't ask any questions anymore. That's, do you know what I mean? Like, I just know, you know? So like, I don't feel like I need protecting. I don't feel like I need protecting. I am it, you know? That depends where you listen to it from, what level, but it can sound egotistic, but it's not, because I know that you're it too. And I know that everybody listening to this is it too, whether it's, you know, the CIA or whoever, I don't care. You're it too. All right. And it is happening. It's a done deal. It is happening. Awareness is raising. You are awareness, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in the world, watching this, listening to it. You are actually awareness, and you are going to become aware of it. Right. So
whether you like it or not, and you probably won't like it for a very long time.
A lot of people don't like the alarm clock going off, right? You know, you've been in a nice sleep, you've been dreaming, it's comfortable, the alarm goes off. It's not nice.
You're brilliant. No, this is brilliant. Yeah, your analogies are like, this is the way my brain connects. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. But it is time to get up. So the alarm clock's gone off. It's as simple as that. You know, some people are going to put it on snooze, isn't it? You've seen that. We've seen that happen. But it's going to go off again. All right. It's not. It doesn't say, "Oh, no worries. You put me on snooze forever. That's all right. No worries." No, it's not going. It's going to go off again, and eventually you're going to wake up. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is.
It was fascinating. When I was a therapist, I worked with kids with severe attachment disorders, reactive attachment disorders. They were highly reactive. But when we would go in our type of therapy, we would join them in what we called, it was dyadic developmental psychotherapy. And we would literally join them where they're at, but we would remove all the emotion and everything in an inner subjective experience is what we called it. And when we go in with them, we'd give them a different response too than what they had initially, like maybe experienced the trauma through and then learned, you know, just like different coping. But we never, ever emotionally went in there with anything. Like, you know, we emotionally numb, you matched their affect. So what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense to me in a weird, strange way. But I think, you know,
I make a lot of sense in a weird, strange way.
Well, my weird, strange way. I'm like trying to find the words because it just like a light just went off in my head. And I'm like, okay, this is probably why the therapy maybe worked, you know, because we were with kids. And when you're reactive like that, anytime you're reactive like that, you're spiraling. I mean, you might well just be in that inverted death spin on an aircraft, you know, that's what's happening. And, you know, I guess it's just, it is a lot. You know, how do you stay? Because all of my research that I've been coming through is staying that cool, like not getting emotionally, because then my energy, and that seems to also be a way to kind of control some of this.
Well, all I can say, right, is that from my experience, is that when I was on, like, if you like, the interim journey of spiritual awakening, right, I always had this thing where, you know, like you sort of tell yourself, oh, I've got to be cool all the time. You know, like if I lose my shit sort of thing, people will go, oh, he's not spiritual. Look at him. Like, he got angry about that, you know, and you sort of like start to cause like this schism inside of you because you're thinking, hang on a minute, I'm doing the meditations and I'm doing all the work here and stuff, you know what I mean? But sometimes I wake up and I feel bad, you know, like, right? And you sort of like, you're going to beat yourself up about it because you're obviously not as spiritual as that guy that I watched on YouTube the other day because he seems all right, you know, and I'm not doing that well today. But what I found was once the reunification of my consciousness had come back, like I realized that awakeness wasn't about feeling good all the time, and it wasn't about like having a serene smile or sitting under a tree all day long. You know what I mean? It wasn't that at all. It was just the fact that you were one with the experience. So sometimes I have bad days. I had one yesterday. Was it yesterday? You know, like just a load of things happened, and I'm starting to identify a bad day. And you know, the kids going mad and all that kind of stuff. You know, bad day at work. You know, being abused and stuff. And I just had enough presence to sort of come in and say, "Hey, just remember the basics, man. Just do 10 deep breaths, and it will all turn around." You know. But I had to allow
Oh,
myself.
wow. I
I
get
had
what
to
you're
allow
saying.
myself to be
Yeah.
one with it. It wasn't like, you know, I wasn't beating myself up about feeling bad or thinking, oh, do you know what that means? That must mean I'm not awake. I'm not doing that. I know what awake is. I'm in. But I'm awake and I'm one with the experience. And that experience that day was like loads of hardship. It's like I'm not pretending that it's any other. But I am
No,
awake.
no.
But I am awake. I know who I am. Do you know what I mean? But like for a laugh, when the voice came in and said, remember the basics, Dave, just do this. So I did 10 deep breaths while suspending thought. And of course it did. It hacked the system. You know, it just hacked the system and I felt loads better. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean,
I did
I'm
4,
literally,
4, and 4 in 4, like, because it starts to what I was realizing, like, with the communication, especially telepathic communication, like, do you the noise, like, in your when
oh, yeah,
somebody's
okay.
trying to
Yeah, yeah,
communicate with you, like, you get this
yeah,
high pitched, like, but to tune
yeah.
it in was where I had to regulate and not let myself get, like, emotionally charged. 'Cause then I'll take out like, I had to reset the power breaker 4 times, like,
Yeah.
that's what happens when
It's just all it is just the recognition that ultimately, like, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
you don't
as
put the
long as
shame piece on it, you're not like, that's
you just got
amazing.
to bring back the point, right? That there's nothing you can do or not do that changes the truth, right? You can't
Right.
become spiritually enlightened. That's where it frustrates a lot of people because you are spiritually enlightened. So you're chasing something that you already are. That's the game, right? Do you know what I mean? That's why a lot of these spiritual things are on, right? Because it's part of the control system, trying to control awakening as it's happening, sending people on a spiritual journey. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yes.
labyrinth, right? But you see, you can't become what you already are because you're already it, right? So it's like you just have to realize that you are already it, and that there's nothing. This world is false, as in bad things happen, bad emotions are generated. It's not on you. Do you know what I mean? You're just the awareness of it. So that you kind of need to sort of like step back from that and go, okay, yeah, it's fine. I don't need to be serene all the time, and that means I'm spiritual. And if I don't do that, then I'm somehow failing. You're not failing. Humans are flawed, right? They're programmed to be flawed. And then what you see in like all the near-death experiences and stuff, that then what happens is as you die and get about as far as the astral realms, they've got a load of spiritually evolved masters or whatever there, or whatever religious figure you want, will come to you and go, oh, good job, but not quite good enough. If you just go back for another life, you've got a bit of karma to, you could have been a monk, and it would just say, oh, like there was that time you walked past that lady and you didn't help her out, and although you didn't know about it, she went on to have a bad day or whatever because you didn't do it. So if you just go back, you're just being gaslighted all the time. If you think about it, you come,
So that's how they'll try and kick you back to this reality?
yeah, they'll always gaslight you with insecurities, see, because you're identified with a
Oh, that
persona.
makes okay.
So
Okay.
if you're identified with a persona, of course you will think, I've done bad things in my life. I've was faulty at times. Do you know what I mean? I lied. That thing. I hurt that person's feeling. Of course you did. Everybody does.
We're human,
Everybody
yes.
does.
The human
Right?
experience, yes.
Right. Of course you did. Everybody does. All right. It doesn't change the fact that awareness is the only truth and everything else is an illusion. Nothing that happens here changes the truth. When most people go, if they just get to the astral realms, they'll get rebooted down here through gaslighting. they will try to tell you that you're not perfect, and that, like the Hindus have like the wheel of samsara, you know, where like we're all here on this wheel of samsara, and the only way you can get off is by achieving perfection. So of course, like, it's good that they've acknowledged the reality of reincarnation, but the turd in the punch bowl, like with all these
Yeah, right.
right, is that they've been sold this lie by the control system. It's like, yeah, and you can get off once you're perfect, but you come from perfect consciousness, right? So infinite pure awareness in its formless state is obviously perfect, right? So why do you need to learn lessons in order to become perfect when that's where you came from in the first place?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
only
This is
the only
good
thing to,
points. Yeah.
yeah. But you see, the thing is about perfect awareness or perfect formless potential consciousness is that, of course, it doesn't have to steal or lie or get by to make the rent this week or break a law. Do you know what I mean? Or drive a car without road tax or whatever, right? Or hurt people's feelings because the heart keeps going, oh, this way, that way, or whatever, all that kind of stuff, right? It doesn't have to do that. So when you come here and it says, oh, you see, you've got lessons to learn because of your behavior, it's total BS, absolute BS. And it's been being played on us for thousands of years. Thousands of years it's been played on us. It's like, it's time for it to be over.
I'm applauding you on that one because that is so true, and I've never looked at it from that perspective, but that is
Oh,
so
cool.
true.
Cool.
Well, because then they'll say, "Oh, it's your lineage. You're bringing on the I said, "Well, I didn't do that. I did not. I am not responsible for what somebody else did on their time here." Okay, but I guess in retrospect, what I'm saying is like, well, why are we carrying this along, this burden? And I get it, like what we do and where my areas are. So I try and make sure with my son, I'm like, don't let my issues be yours. Don't do that. But you're right. Nobody comes here as like, I mean, you can go back to whatever. Nobody's coming here as like, well, I mean, I guess I'm not sure about everybody, but the majority of us are born. We didn't, necessarily like, and if we did, we don't remember, like, that in all fairness. Like,
Well, that's a
but
big
yeah.
part of it, isn't it? Yeah, is the not remembering. Obviously, if we all remembered our like multiple lives and stuff and what happened to us in between those lives, it would be game over, wouldn't it? Right? Because I assume that's why death exists in the first place. Because obviously we're infinite beings, so death is like a joke. But like it's obviously been brought into play in this game in order to keep us here. The prison has to be sophisticated. It can't just be a prison with bars, because we'd see the bars. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and we'd be like, all right, I want to get out. That's just human nature. We want to get out. But like, or consciousness is nature, if you like. It doesn't want to be entrapped, except when it has chosen to. And but anyway, right? But like, so what they've had to do in order to build the prison is it has to be like a prison where like you've got this kind of level where you think you're getting out, which is death.
Mm-hmm.
But actually what's happening is you're not getting outside of the prison, you're getting outside the building, you're going into the yard and you're getting turfed back into the building. And all the time you think you're going somewhere, but you're not going anywhere, you're going in circles.
Back in. Yeah, you're right. See,
Now,
what you said made a lot of sense, and I know that before too. In the astral realm, it's all about fear to keep you back from even like entering into some of that. And I'll tell people, I'm like, no, they like sent the cryptid. I could not get out. I could not get out. And the lady that comes, she looked like something you'd see off of like Night of the Living Dead. I didn't care though. I did not care. I'm like, you're not going to scare me. Somebody just help me out of here. Okay, this is worse just sitting here trying to get out than it is. So, but I could see how that could be. That makes sense then. Why they put those layers upon layers to keep us
yeah,
trapped
they
here.
they know, like, they'll use different tactics. One of the last tactics they'll use, right, which is one of the best ones, right? It's like, so I've had different tactics used on me when I developed a program, right, for helping people de-link from reality, and it's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, I have to look at that. That's
But
awesome.
so when I was using it, I would constantly get sent these kind of like astral spiders, because like the Matrix knew I didn't like spiders.
Oh
So
yeah.
it was use
Yeah.
that like, fear, you know what I mean? Like making me think they're real or whatever. Or they probably on some level they were, but yeah, just sending them at me, just so that I would like, be distracted and stuff.
It
And
works. It works
yeah, I mean, it
for
did
until
work.
a certain
Sometimes it worked.
until
But
you're
you know
there.
what?
But
Eventually, I just started laughing at it, and and then it stopped working. So it turns out I was always in control anyway. But like,
So do you think that there's two, I mean, two groups maybe? Like, is there all like, because there's the consciousness all like is one, right? But what is this negative part that is feeding?
all it is that, like, so the way it was shown to me, right, was like, so a proportion of consciousness from the prime dream, it started spinning on its own. It started creating like a vortex on its own within the main dream. And it was an exercise in separating itself. And that consciousness is like, in effect, like a super ego. And it like believes itself to be like all powerful, and it believes itself to be God, you know. But it's not. It's confused.
Sure. It's really confused. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's ever coming out of. Yeah.
But so one of the last things they'll offer you. So when you go into when people die or stuff, or when people actually travel, because you can just get out of here through actually traveling and stuff. You know, I've nearly done it myself. That's another story. But like, they will use fear, right, to try and stop you. When fear doesn't work, they'll use like good stuff, you know, like bliss, sex, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Just try and distract you from what you're doing. When that doesn't work, the last like attempt they will use is to bring you into the fold. And I swear some of the elites and stuff will be people or souls, let's say, that in the distant past were really powerful spiritual beings and nearly woke up, nearly escaped. And then the last thing they offered them was power, and said, "No, just you come with us, be one of the trillionaires, like control the world. You know, you'll have power over humanity." And they just stopped them from going up, leaving the casino. They said, "No, come and work for the casino because you're so good at it." You know,
like the CIA, yeah. Wow.
That's like the last thing that you get offered before you can actually. You got to resist all temptation, basically. Do you know what I mean? You know, we all know there's a story in a book, you know, where a guy gets taken up a mountain and offered all the kingdoms of the world by the devil, yeah. And like, he refuses, right? But the one thing he doesn't do, if you notice, he never questions the devil's authority over the world. He never says it's not yours to give me. He doesn't question that at all, because he knows that like this world is run by an imbalanced consciousness. And it is that the world doesn't need fixing because it's not broken. It is the manifestation of this imbalanced consciousness. Not going to be fixed. It's just going to be dissolved.
Now that makes sense. So do you buy into like the Council of Nine or the things like that are here to maybe shift the frequency? So this is all, we fix it.
So I think that we've got to be careful, right? And I think like obviously we just need to use common sense and discernment when dealing with those sort of things, right? So it's like you get a lot of promises, and you get a lot of people like going, "Oh, well, I'm channeling this," and you know what I mean. And all this information is love and light, and you know, and all this expansion stuff, right? Excellent, right? Brilliant, right? But when we know that it's possible for the astral and stuff to be like deceptive in nature,
yes,
then we basically have to sort of like just judge every tree by the fruit it bears.
What I initially thought was it's a trap. They're trying to find, and like they've done most of us our entire life. I thought it was a trap. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, sorry, I was being long-winded, but yeah.
No. I hear you. That's where my brain goes. I'm like something could be totally legit. I'm like, where's the trap?
These are like, there's a lot of rabbit holes at the moment in the alternative media that are just basically designed to distract people and send people off course. So even when we're looking at the alternative media and stuff, we've got to be really discerning, you know, and like the whole thing's like, does say the whole thing's a deception. So everything, like, it's the master of deceptions. It's the magician, you know, like everything's about getting you to look over there whilst it's happening over here, or getting you to think you've got the freedom to choose any card you want when you're always going to choose the three of clubs. And everything's that all the time. Do you know what I mean? There's like, the only way you can win this game is you stop playing. That's it. You can't win in the casino. You know what I mean? Like the house wins, right? If you're
Right.
gambling, the house wins. It's as simple as that. You can think, oh, you've got a good strategy because you're watching someone else play for a little while and you don't play that one, unband it until you've seen it not pay out or whatever. And you think you're winning. You're not winning. The house wins, right?
That lucky rabbit's foot means nothing in your
No.
pocket. Yeah.
You remember who you are, you get out.
Yeah, no, that gosh, I just had a because that is so true. Like even with like how we're experiencing all this, so you cut off its food source, and
Mm.
that's feeding it like the energy is what is basically what.
And of course, while people are still looking for answers in the world, do you know what I mean? That they are identified with it, which means they've already lost, you know, because they're looking for the
Mm.
answers in the world. They think, oh, you know, I'm going to be happy if I do this, or if I go on that spiritual retreat, or I win the lottery, or whatever. It's like, no. You're totally looking in the wrong direction. You're looking in the wrong direction. The thing looking is where you need to be. It's the thing that's looking. Realize that's where your salvation is. It's not in the things you're looking at. It's the thing that's doing the looking. Do you know what I mean? It's
The
awareness.
watcher. Yeah.
You're already sat on the gold. You know, it's like, you know.
Oh, that makes so much sense too, because I'm like, all this earthly, this only applies here. It doesn't apply outside wherever. I'm not convinced. I'm not even a space believer. You can call me a denier, probably everything at this point. But I'm like, until we see some of this, I'm just going to assume, and I'm going to put it in this category over here because it's confusing. And when that happens, nothing good. I mean, they might understand the chaos, but in my chaos world, it's like, like I tumble a little.
In this like inverted world, you know, like the best way to come to gnosis is like just to keep reminding yourself that you don't know anything. You know, like you just keep looking at everything and just going, well, I don't know that's real. I don't know that for a fact. Try and find something that's true in this world. Like
I know. I
that
know.
can't be argued at all. You know, something
Oh.
that is indisputably true. Try and find it. Like, it's not there, right? So people walk around going, yeah, well, I know that, and I know this. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't know anything. Right? Even if you've looked at a person and thought, oh well, I know what kind of person they are because of the way they're dressed, look on their face or anything. You don't know anything. You're beating yourself up in your head about people and about situations, and you don't even know any of it's true. So it's like the first thing to do to head towards gnosis is to just keep reminding yourself all the time, oh yeah, but I don't need to feel bad about that because I don't even know if it's true. I don't even know.
That's what I do in my head. I'm like, everything's a lie. Everything. Why? Because we don't remember every second of every day. So that's true. It's very true that we do lie to ourselves nonstop. So when it comes, that's what I tell myself. Like it's a lie.
One of the problems is as well is that, like, you know, you've heard the classic saying, and you're like, you know, it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. And it's like the trouble is, you see, is that when you bought a lie, it's like buying anything else, right? You've got something invested in it. So you've now got something invested in that car, you know, and someone sold you the idea of that car, you know, like what it would do and how glamorous it would make you or whatever, you know. So you've now got something invested in the bullshit, right? And you want, you know, you're anything that like signifies to you that things aren't quite as they seem, that car might not be as good as you were told or whatever. You're kind of going to like edit them out because you've got something invested in the lie, right?
Yeah.
Well, this world is exactly the same, right? So it's not easy for people to let go because they've got something invested because they bought it. Bought this world, right? And they sort of like they've got something invested in it, even if it's just the defensive belief system. They've got something invested in it. So it takes a lot of care, you know, to like let go. It's not as simple as me just going, hey, just let go and identify with being awareness. I can vouch for that. You know, I didn't do it in a day. I didn't do it in a year, right? But if you want it, if you know, you've got to want truth. You know, you've got to want it above everything else. And then you find it. Nothing in this world can stop you. Nothing in this world can stop you, like becoming the truth. You've just got to want it more than you want anything else. That's all.
That's so true too. I said, you know what though? I always kicked it as my downfall. I said, you know, if there were a revelation starting tomorrow and there were a cause, even though I know and I've suffered the repercussions to degrees people shouldn't even understand. I'm telling you, I would be the first one running out there on that. Like, it's like it is above me. Like there's certain things like, you know, where I'm just like, I stand back and I'm just like, that program, I don't know if it's programming or if it is the consciousness, whatever takes over control. It's like no making sense out of anything, living right in there in that moment, that authentic and genuine moment.
No, that's cool. That's cool. It's the way it should be sometimes. Everything is exactly the way it should be. I'll tell you that much. You know. There's nothing happening against like the truth. So
That,
people just need to remember that.
so how do you stay grounded, and how do you stay, like, I mean, because listening, I mean, this is, I mean, absolutely, honestly, like, probably the most grounded information I've gotten in a very, very long time.
Okay,
Um,
cool. I
how do
am grounded.
you are very grounded. You're very grounded. I don't feel like you can be shook as easy. I'm still shakeable. Like, I didn't think at one time, but then I got shook again.
Okay.
It kind of hits you from time to time. But
Yeah, of course.
how do you start this process for people who, you know, do want to detach? Like, are some things like somebody could do right here, right now to kind of change some of the stuff for them today?
If I ask you, right, to say the word red car, if you say it for me,
Red car.
right? So now, on the premise that something that's observed has to be observed by an observer, does that make sense to you?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So the observer can't be the observed thing,
Mm-mm.
separate entity, right? But you know that if I said to you, did you just say red car? You can say, yes. All right. I am aware that I just said the words red car. And you know that you said it because your ears heard it. You had to move your vocal cords specifically to say. It's quite amazing that you could do it. You know,
Sure.
you listen to the info, like the ask of me doing it for you. You heard that command. You in your brain. Everything went. The synapses went off, and it happened. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
you are therefore aware that you just said red car with your body. Right. You are not your body because you are aware of what your body does, and you can't therefore be your.
Mm.
Now, Coley, let's just go one step further, right? This time, I just want you to think red car and visualize one if you want, and tell me when you've done it.
I've done it.
Right. So if you're telling me that you've just done it and you have just done it, let's say, right, you're not just like, it wouldn't matter if you were tricking or not, but let's say you have just thought about a red car, visualized a red car,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you had done that, you've told me I've done it, right?
Yes.
Which means that you are aware of what your mind is doing, which means that you are not your mind. You are the awareness of it. And those two
Oh.
things can't be the same thing. They can't be the same thing, Coley, because you're aware of it. So you're aware of your body and you're aware of your mind. So what are you if you're not your body and you're not your mind, right? What are you? Your awareness. This world isn't in your mind. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yes.
like,
No,
sorry,
yes. Yeah, I do. Like, whoosh. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Your awareness, that's what's real about you. All right. That's
Mhm.
it's that simple. It's not mystical, right? It's not religious. It's the truth, right? It's the truth.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
world is false. That's the truth. Awareness is truth. When you die, you'll be aware that you're dead. When you get reborn again, you're aware that you've been reborn. Do you know what I mean? Or you're aware that you're alive. It's all the time. The only constant was awareness. Awareness was always constant. That's what it was. So it's the only thing that's real about you. And it is freeing itself from illusion right now. It's doing it
Wow.
right now. Okay. Because now's all there is, but this is when it's happening. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no, that's the only yeah, I would say you can't trust anything but the here and now, right here, right now, before or after. It's like all just living in that moment. So, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That just blew
Coley,
my mind.
can I just ask, how much longer are we talking for?
I was going to let it go as long as you.
Oh, okay. It's just that because I'm feeling so ill.
No, 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 and yeah, we can shut this down. I just go 2 hours, but I was so dry, and I don't like to cut people off of their stories or, they're done completing, but I would love to do a part 2.
Yeah, I'd love to come on again. That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Oh,
So
awesome.
there's
Yeah, and
there's
I know
obviously
you're
a lot
not
of different
feeling
ways that
well.
we can. There's a lot of different angles that we can talk about this, and sometimes it really helps people because, like I say, a slightly different angle will just like make something drop, and they go, "Oh, of course." Oh, but now you say it like that, you know what I mean? That makes sense, and that's kind of like what my job is now.
It
It's just
is. I believe this. You're meant for this. You really are meant for
yeah,
this.
of course, it's the
Wow.
truth. So yeah. But for now, we'll have to leave it for now, and then like I say, have me back on when it's the right time. So,
Yes, absolutely. And before you go, is there something that you would like to leave the audience with?
so all I would say is like my YouTube channel, like David Hunt Talks, like where I've been putting a video up every day, and they're usually about 10, 15 minutes long, and I explain a lot of these concepts. And basically every day I'm just trying to support. If people send me questions and whatever and comments, I answer them all. I try to give people clarity, and that's a big part of my work at the moment. Do you know what I mean? That's how I can do it. Obviously, the podcasts are great to do that, but with the videos, you can choose a different subject, like from this. I think there's about 60 videos on there now, and obviously with the video, you can listen to it as many times as you want to, and as many times as you need to. So that's the biggest way I can help people at the moment. So.
No, that's huge. So go over to David Hunt Talks on YouTube and definitely subscribe and follow. We've been posting your links. We'll get your links out there too.
Awesome.
And like I said, I stumbled upon. I didn't realize that you had a channel and I was going through some of them last night. It's phenomenal stuff. It really is. I didn't. Now I have a better understanding of what I'm going into. But that's amazing. I just want to thank you so much, David, for your time, your energy, and your wisdom, because this is really wow.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Coley. It's great. Nice to speak to you.
Very nice to speak with you too. Yeah, and I look forward to the future, but get some rest. I could have sat on here all day and talked to you, but yeah, no, get some rest, and we'll definitely plan a part 2. So again, thank you. Wow, that was I absolutely love shows like that. They're just like mind blowing. I love to see the chat and everybody connecting. It really is all about connecting, and it a lot of what David had said, it just hit home. I feel like I'm going to take a couple days here and process this, but I hope it was as moving for me as it was for each and every one of you, because this is really something. These are the conversations we need to have. How we got here, trying to make sense of all that. It's already here. Like we can sit here all day long and play and the what ifs, again, what David said really resonated with me. And I think that if we do start to think about this differently, that we can see different outcomes. We can see one another differently. And there's not a separation. We are one. We are one, as crazy as that is. I know the lady down the street, I don't necessarily like that, but that's, a part of this whole process. So thank you, each and every one of you, for being here. I really do appreciate it. You're the reason and the support. And I love just seeing all the conversations and stuff going on. And before I get too far into this, I just wanted to thank Blazer for, oh gosh, if you could only see what StreamYard is doing now. I can't even get down to our thank you things, but I'll figure it out before I end the stream. Just for a little housekeeping stuff, Maya Starfire will be on tomorrow. We have Jeff Silver on, and yes, that will be great. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm just trying to get that video really quick before we close out. Oh gosh. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, but apparently I'm doing some.
Welcome, new.
Thank you, Blazer. If you did that from back there, I appreciate it. I'm going to have to put these but yes, thank you. And welcome to the new chat members. We love having you. You're in for, we're a crew. We are a crew, but we are definitely a good one. So and a fun one. And I look forward to it. Again, tomorrow night, Jeff Selver, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. I just did that wrong again. See, whenever I have a conversation, that's how mind-blowing the show was for me today. So I'm just going to keep this simple so I don't sound like a blabbering idiot like I feel like right now. But anyway, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's I'll put a notification out. But until then, thank you for taking the journey into the unknown. I'm Coley, also known as ColeyUFO. And what a show, man. What a show. That was excellent. And thank you again, David, for all you're doing, because if my brain hurts, I can't even imagine. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone, and I'll be seeing you shortly. UFOs in the night.